Okay. Hello, everybody. Last day. We have wrapped everything, and well, the goal to land again to make it very, very practical. So quickly recapitulation. And previously in tools for writing, like in the previous chapter, the basic idea that I always insist to everybody is structure. Structure in the folder, structure in the document. You can use structure in any kind of editor. The point is that in Word or Google Docs, you are not encouraged to do. You are kind of, look, colors, fonts, and you get easily distracted with this thing. Markdown, on the other side, doesn't offer colors or fonts, so you are kind of forced to think in the structure. And but if you know how to, if you think in structure, you can use any tool. I'm not saying that it is a tool; it's just the tool I recommend. The tool that we are recommending are Visual Studio Code by Microsoft, Pandoc, but this Professor John McFarlane, and the unique command line, which came automatically in Linux and Mac, and in Windows, you can have something that is not as good as CMD or PowerShell, but you can also install a Unix shell in Windows if you want to know the powers of the ancient art of magic. You know, the real magic come with this thing. So I think Mirai was in the generation that took introduction to computer science with me and learned some Unix command line. So eventually it will be an advantage. It will be an advantage. Like I had a lot of people who I was investing, you know, for one day they were going to be my students, and Mirai is my long-term bet. Okay, what else? The guy who writes, people say no, but these are computer guy people and biologists. I don't like to use these command line things. Well, the guy who wrote this thing, all this Pandoc tool, is written by a philosopher, a guy who writes books about philosophy and papers about philosophy. This is a guy who wrote in the philosophy department of Berkeley. It's not a mathematician. It's not a computer scientist. It's a philosopher. The point is that philosophers think about logic, and if you think about logic, maybe working with computer is not bad. And if we're doing science, thinking about logic is not a bad idea. So, but the point is, the excuse that this is a nerd thing is not valid. I cannot think anything less nerd. Well, it's a different kind of nerd, let's say. It's a different kind of, but it's not a computer guy. Okay, it's not the computer science department. So, document structure, we have said before, just wanted to remind you, and I intentionally skipped some detail because people, when I show this, people get automatically called to this, the format inside a graph, inside the text, but there is inside what I say, inside the paragraph, okay. So, because the structural element that we show are element that start with the paragraph, and then you have section, and then you have things that are kind of paragraph, like figures and tables and so on. Sometimes we want to put a link to a web page. The format is similar to here. You see what is the origin of the syntax for the pictures. You have a bracket when you write the text that is going to be clickable. And then immediately, no spaces, you put parentheses, and inside the parentheses, you put the web page, the address. So you see, if I put the mouse here, you see in the lower corner of my screen, the address that will open if I click here. That is how I can put a link. There is an alternative that sometimes is nicer if your document is long and you have a lot of reference. You just put the brackets and you don't say anything else. And later in an independent line, you put bracket with the same text, like this is a reference, no? And something that will connect these two things. And this is an idea that we're going to see, like we put a bracket here, and then outside you put the same, then equinocta, 2 point, semicolon, and then the web page. So that is how you can, to be honest, I never use this one. But it's good to know for a reason that you will see in a minute. I use this one if I am putting links. But if I had a document with a lot of web references, I would probably try to put the reference kind of in the bottom line, at the end. You put, let's say, Wikipedia or Google Documents, something like that. You put a keyword, and then at the end, you make a little list of what are the web addresses of all these places. But the reason why I wanted to show you, because there is an extension, I mean, in the sense that it's not in the original, but very much used, that using the same syntax, uses this symbol, the upper arrow, like raised to the power of, that we used to say footnotes. Okay, so you put any text. I hear typically people put numbers because it's the easiest to see, but you can put anything. And then following the same idea, in a separate page, you put the same ID at the beginning, with the same bracket, then colon, and then what is a footnote? And this is a long one. If you go to more than one page, you can have you have to put four spaces here. And if the following paragraph starts at the beginning, then it means that you are not longer in the footnote. So I literally copied and pasted the same here, and you see the footnote reference 1 and 2. That I will show you later. They are at the end of the document. When we finish, I will show you. They're automatically put. Well, depending on how we configure, they are typically kind of at the bottom of your page. And they work well with Word and so. Word also has footnotes and so. Something that is not so easy to do in Word is to make little parts that are going to be code. For example, here I am speaking about variables in a program. It's a little like in mathematics, that you want to use a different symbol to not confuse the letter X with the symbol X. You use a different font to mean that they are different things. Well, I agree that it's not the thing that we use more in biology, but sometimes you need, for example, if we are speaking about the options of a program, I like to put them in a clear. For example, when I mention these examples here. Emphasis, bold with double star, and italic with single star. There is an alternative I may show you later. My point is that this is very much a temptation for people to start putting bold. I really think that if you are using bold, you probably want to say something else. If you're using bold, you probably want to say that this is a title, this is a section. Italics, on the other side, I will say, depends on the context, scientific name, for example. Okay, the second idea that we spoke last week was BibTeX. BibTeX, remember, are text files that where you store your reference. What kind of thing can go in a BibTeX file? I found a reference, but essentially, normally we put articles, alias papers. The keyword is article. But we can also put books, book chapters. If you write a book chapter or you reference a book chapter, a paper in a conference. No, sorry. Yeah, a paper in a conference. Proceeding is the book of the conference. In proceeding is a chapter in that book. It's like your paper in the conference. And online, this is not always, this is kind of modern, not all system manages. You can have an online that refers to a web page. Okay. And that is something that was not in the standard, in the original BibTeX, because web didn't exist. But the basic point is that sometimes you have a reference, let's say NCBI or something like that, that is not a paper, it's not a book, it's a resource that is online as a URL. And the important thing is that web pages change with time. And if they, therefore, when you make a citation, you need to say when you saw it. You say, like, this was saying, I don't know, in the newspaper, in the New York Times, for example, on a given date, because you know that the web page of the newspaper is going to change every day. There is a miscellanea. If you have also, sometimes if online doesn't work, I use mis. But essentially the point is that the processor will know how to write the reference depending on this. So, for example, the way that you cite a book is not the same way that you cite an article. There are other things, but are secondary, like master thesis or so, but maybe interesting here, unpublished. You maybe have something that is not being published. How to make your own BibTeX file, because this is when things start to get interesting. First, use a good reference manager software. I am using Mendeley. In fact, I have it here. This is my Mendeley, and where do we have it here? I don't remember now, but I can find, for example, a set. I normally make a little folder with the thing that I want to put, but you can export everything. Okay. Here, if I click it, I have the option export, and export can offer BibTeX, also EndNote, something that Microsoft can read, interesting, and RIS. So we have EndNote and RIS. These are other formats that we see often. I will make, if we have time, I make another comment about EndNote and RIS. But if I do that, I click export and I get a BibTeX file for all the papers that I have. So essentially, you will read a paper, you will download the PDF. It is a mess to keep the PDF in your computer. It is better to put in a reference manager like Mendeley or Zotero, something that will put them organized. You can put tags, you can make summary. It's a tool for handling papers. That is something that's going to be useful whatever you do. Using a reference manager is something useful. I am using Mendeley, but people recommend Zotero, and I may move to that. Another alternative, for reference that you already things that are already been published, is to go to Google Docs, Google Scholar. Google Scholar. Here you have a famous researcher, and you can click in Cite, and here you see they are offering some standard style that called MLA, the language association. What is like the I don't remember. Modern Language Association, that is the association. American Psychology Association, Chicago style, Harvard style, Vancouver style, and others. And then you can get BibTeX, EndNote, RefMan, RefWork. I don't know what are these things, but BibTeX and EndNote are found. By the way, the Chicago style is called Chicago because of this book. Maybe I should show directly here. This book. That is the Manual for Writers of Research called the Turabian, but it's also University of Chicago. So this is the book that defines. This is a book probably contain more that you want to know, but this is the definition of the style. Okay, a book for writers of research paper, thesis, and dissertation. That is the Chicago style, and it's a book that always people recommend. If you are writing something, read it to understand what. Well, but it's kind of rules to follow. To be honest, I believe that these rules. First, if it's something super based on rules, the computer should do for you. So, how to write the reference is something that you should not care very much. Second, you should first write everything that you have to say, and then check that it's in the correct format. If you try to follow the format from the beginning, you will not get. It is hard to follow. If you have too many rules, you block yourself. Alternative is if it's not a paper, if it's a book, you can look it in Google Books, and there is some kind of reference, blah blah blah, what the people are saying. And eventually at the end, there is something called bibliographic information, and there is a export citation. You can get BibTeX, EndNote, and other things. So you can get the reference here. I have this other tool, Autobib, which is also, well, let me click it. It used to have a plugin from the Chrome browser, but it's not working now. Autobib, essentially, you put let's say you have a paper, a book, and you have the ISBN code. You write the ISBN here, for example, let's say, I don't know, maybe I should have, let's try 9780205309002. And if you are lucky, you have a scanner, some program in the cell phone that scan this, and I should have say BibTeX. The element of style. Let's go back 1 second and say BibTeX here. Another recommended book. Short, useful, element of style. This is more about writing. We should read it regularly, not only one time. Okay, so, and you see many people are producing the same thing. Bibtex.com, we already saw it. And I also found this one that is useful when you are citing thing. For example, you can, I put an extension called BibTeX entry from URL that essentially, if I am looking at a web page, I don't know, let's say this same web page, and I want to make a BibTeX entry, I can click here and it copy to the clipboard, and I get the reference. I will, well, let's see what happens here. But essentially, it's like the web page. There is here. I want to show the option. Here is something that is useful to see the option. But essentially, if you go to the browser extension and you see what are the, what can I say? If you search for BibTeX, you will have many. So something like include page access date. That is what I say, that if you are citing a web reference, you should put the date. And you, by default, are creating miscellanea, but you can use online if your tool supports it. And then the date, this is American, I prefer, as you know, well, let's put something more Turkish. Day.month.year. Is the one that I have now. It's not necessarily the best, but tools exist. Tools exist for handling. If you, well, you can see later the web page and the other thing. Well, one day. And in the worst case, you write it manually because these are text files. So no drama on it. Let's go the practical thing. For practical reason, I am going to compile to HTML, to web page, because it's faster. So I'm start with this, and I'm going to show you a couple of things. So, okay, I'm going to exit the full page here. Control. Okay, maybe this will be good enough. This is a file that I want to, that we created last time. I make a little modification. Let me go to the browser here. So first thing first, this is my reference, the BibTeX file, just for this example. And this is the, okay, this is example document. This is where we are going to work. Maybe I will close this one. No, let me move it here. I can move and put it here just in case we need to take a look at it. And this is the document, okay? Remember, with Control K V, you can have a preview, which not always, for example, doesn't solve the reference and so on. It's a simple one, but it's a quick view. You can see the picture that I put here. So I added a second figure, and I put some reference here that following the style that we say. Let's close this one. Maybe you can even make it a little bigger here. Fine. Then I can open. I pressing comma, but I don't know how to do it in the Turkish keyboard. But there is a tool that allows me to. Well, you have to search. Open this terminal. I think I don't know how to do without an American keyboard, but you will find a way that there is a. So for now, I'm going to show you in the command line, and if we have time, I will try to make it more automatic. But the truth is that if you want to make it, the point is that there's so many options that you may want to turn on and off that make it automatic will be at the long term more annoying, because kind of you have to change the default every time. But let's go with the very beginning. So I say pandoc, exactly, pandoc example, output minus O, show what will be the output file. And here I am saying, well, HTML. The keyword here is that it's going to be a web page, which I already opened here. Here, this one, I can close this one, and close the others. And it looked like this. Example, this is the first section, the list, normal text, figure that is kind of too big, and the references are empty, and in fact, they are not solved here. So let's start fixing this thing. So the first thing that I want to do is, what was the first thing I wanted to do? I have it here. Make the picture small and using attribute. Okay, so let's go to the text here. The pictures can have, in this version of Markdown, they can have an extra here that, okay, we started with bracket, then round parentheses, and then we use the other kind of parentheses, the curly braces. And here you can put some attribute. The attribute that I want to put here is width. And I want to make it, I don't know, let's say 18 centimeters. You can put, I normally put it in inches because I learned to do this in inches. So I'm changing this one, saving, compiling again, very fast. And then let's check what happened. And now this one is narrower, and this is maybe still too big. Let's change the second one. I will, okay, just to test. You can specify height if you like, but normally specifying the width is more practical. This is the same. Now maybe I should do something. How can I say? Wrap.
I think there is also scale, which
yeah, but scale in general is not a good idea because you don't know what is the size of the figure, and what you do know is what is the size of your paper. You can do, yeah, you can check the manual and see many options. My recommendation: use width, not height, not scale, because that is the variable that you really control. My recommendation. Okay, but of course you can do the way that you like. Okay, second task here is use let's say the bibliography. Let's run this option with bibliography. So as you remember, the key option is cite proc, meaning process the citations, and I have to say what is the bibliographical file. I have to say what is the name of the bibliography. So I'm going to do it here. I forgot to say pandoc. I didn't copy the correct. It takes a little longer because you have to process the bibliography, but it's still not slow. In fact, it's taking too much time. The presenter, why is taking so long? Because no, this is not the one. Okay, wrong command. Because I didn't finish the phrase. Okay, copy and paste wrong. Pandoc, cite proc, bibliography. I didn't say what I wanted to do. Bibliography reference bib, example, the input file and output file. Okay, so what are the reference? The input file, the output file. Okay, still fast. And what we get here, reload. No, these are narrower, and the reference have been solved. Here, the first author, the second author. Here, notice they are sorted alphabetically and not in the order they were cited. So the first is Miller 2009, then Carroll 2018, and then I put them both together. Maybe I should use other. I wanted to show you here the difference between when you cite, let's do the wrap again. If I put the reference in bracket, it will automatically get this parenthesis here. Okay, we're going to play with this in a second. If I put the reference without bracket, it is someone that we are going to reference directly in the text. For example, according to Carroll, 2018. So you notice it depends on how you are writing your phrase. In normal cases, you just say something, and at the end of the phrase, you put the reference to make clear that you are. There's someone chatting, and I didn't know. Okay. Okay, yeah, Baris is the expert, so we will hire Baris as our advisor here because he knows. Let's talk about that later. This is kind of in part of your phrase, okay? So just if you read carefully the paper, sometimes you say the name of the author is part of the phrase, and sometimes the reference is just a margin note. Okay, let's go. Next tool. So you will realize that writing this every time the reference can be annoying. And in fact, the point is that you may have more than one reference file. Depending on your project, you may have several reference files. So we are going to make something extra here. We are going to go to the beginning, and we are going to put metadata. If you have seen R Markdown, you know that we put 3 dots. Then we put a text here that is the part that we want to say, and three hyphen. So the first part is the keyword, and then what is the value. So bibliography, what is the bibliography file? If I put it here, this will not be shown. This should be at the beginning of the file. Well, probably can be anywhere, but let's put it at the beginning of the file, and you have to put the correct keywords, in this case, bibliography, because the system is going to process them and is going to use the values here. So if I do that, I can now do again the pandoc. I have to say site pro, that part I cannot. I tried to make automatic, but I didn't know how to do site proc. Unfortunately, yeah, that is the problem, that we cannot give an option in the metadata for this. We have to say it in the command line. Eventually, when you have a command, you can make it more automatically. What else? Reload. What happened here? So yeah, the references still work, despite that I didn't say the reference here. So we put information in the metadata. Metadata is your friend. Okay. Okay, next task. See the source HTML. I want to show you how it looks inside. Let's close some stuff that we don't need anymore. Just a very quick lesson on HTML. There is an option here just to view page source. Yes, if you're curious. So as I say, this H1 means header level 1, and you see that this market here, it has an ID even. UL, another list item. And you see, but the point is that I want to say here that we are starting with the header level 1. There is no title, there is no body. It is not exactly a full HTML. just a partial, and that means that the style is kind of ugly. Look, it's a very basic web page. So what I'm going to do now that you have seen the easy way, we are create what is called a self-contained document. Okay, we are going to use this option. In fact, I can copy this one. Self-contained is the same command as before. I only add the option self-contained. Again, this is an option that has to be in the command line. I get a warning that I'm going to solve in a minute, but let's see what happened. Aha, now it is a nicer document. Since it's self-contained, it contains some decoration. It has margins, it has a different type of letter. The table looks much professional. The references are well designed, they look nice, no? And if we go again to view page source, you will see that this time the source, let's see, it's longer. You see there is an HTML starting, then a header with a lot of things, and then body, and then is the part that we had before. So there is essentially there is a complete head that was added here, and maybe well, body HTML. So if you use the option self-contained, essentially you get nicer web pages. You can eventually, if you are interested, you can change this option. I personally don't change them. You may recognize that this is the style that I'm using in my blog or something similar to this. Let's add a title, because I complained about the title. So you can add the title in the command line, but the wiser idea, I think, is to I will copy from here. In the same metadata, you can put title, and you can even put author. You can put author, let's say Andres Arena. Let's say this, and then I save, and I run the same command again, and this time it doesn't complain about the title. Yep, reload, not wrong. And we got the title that is centered, and the author. I will eventually put the date, and this is a section. Okay. Change the citation style. There is Zotero has a list of repositories you can download. Essentially, you need to download a file in a format called CSL. You can Google these two words, Zotero style repository. They have hundreds of them. But the keywords are, well, by default, the style is Chicago. But we can call APA, MLA. I want to show this one. We can play with some of them. So because Chicago, APA, and MLA are very similar, but I want to show you something that are kind of different. So how we do that? Again, metadata. Here we say CSL, and I'm going to put, let's say, IEEE. Now, for this to work, I have to have the style file. Here in my computer, I have the IEEE CSL. That essentially came with Mendeley. I took from the Mendeley file. And as you see, the Modern Language Association, National Library of Medicine, Nature, Harvard, American Political Science. Well, these are kind of the big ones, but different journals may have different style. So I run the same command again. And now, what we see here, the references in this style are numbers in brackets. And they are sorted in the order. So the first reference is 1, the second is number 2. And at the end, they are sorted not alphabetically, but in the order they were shown. There is another style in which they have a kind of the author name here, but not the date, like Miller, Carroll, and they are sorted alphabetically. There are many, many styles. So, but the bottom line is that you change here. So let's try, for example, Nature. Anyway, for your thesis, you probably have a rule from the university that say you have to use Chicago or you have to use APA or something. And if you're writing a paper, the journal will tell you, and probably the journal will even give you the CSL. So here they have numbers, but not in brackets, and the numbers in the text are upper script. Here the phrase doesn't work, as you see. There's no difference. In this case, there is no difference between one and the other. So to finish, let's go back to something more standard. APA is also very common. We'll do it again. At least in Istanbul University, what I have seen is that most people use something like APA. You get the author name in parentheses. Here there is a comma that was not before. And the style also indicate how to put the titles, for example, how to put the style of writing this part. As you see, there are many options, and the good thing is that you don't need to think about them. They're automatically made for you. You can play with them. Next step. So we already have something that looks decent. This is an interesting. First, extension of VS Code. I will show you some extension. So by default, there is something that I press. If any part of the text I press, let me put here. If in any part of the text I put Control space, I get a helper. For example, if you want to make bold, you press here. If you want to write code, if you want to get a block of code, heading number 1. I personally don't like it. Maybe image is useful. Insert an image. Maybe that will save some time. So essentially, the point is control in Visual Studio Code, control space, meaning that I press the control button and the space button at the same. I mean, press control and then I press space. Control space, I give you a helper. Now I'm going to open the extension and will enable an extension that I already installed here, but I will enable now. It's called Pandoc Citer. So here I'm going to enable it. It's enabled now. And if everything goes right, which is not always the case, I have to do something else here. I also have to go and write the references. This is a silly thing, I think, but well, it's a simple thing. The file has to be wrapped in bracket. It's a technical thing, we can discuss it later, but I put it in bracket and save it. And now, if I put at, I automatically get an option of all the references that I have in my book. For example, I can say Allen, David Allen, for example, this one. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Allen, I press tab, and I get autocomplete. So when you have your reference file, if you were systematic and you put the author as the ID, then this plugin will essentially look automatically what are your names here. Let's look at paper, for example. Let's put here, for example, Annesley, Thomas. No, but I have too many items here. I want another paper. Do I have another paper? No. Well, whatever. Let's go back to example. Let's put it in bracket, separated with semicolon. Nestle, 2011, let's say, another one. Okay. Error. At Nestle, this one. Tab. Okay. Save and run again. And we got what we got. The reference here, and they were automatically added. So Please notice that my bibtext has many entries that I'm not using. And the trick is that it will only show you the entries that you are using. So you can have a big database and it's no problem. It will only include the one that you are saying. So for example, here you got a paper and the journal is in italic. And there is even the DOI, the web page. That depends on the style, on the citation style. Okay, we are running out of time and I'm still starting. Oh my gosh. So, here, Pandoc Citer, recommended extension. Number figure, this is important. We need to add a plugin that may be specified. It's important that it should be before SiteProc, and you will see why. So let me just copy. This is you have to Google Pandoc XNOS, and you will find a rule for installing is something that you install with Python. There's some alternative, but let's try it, okay? And let's see why you would like to do it. So first, if I just do it, nothing will happen. Maybe I will even get an error. No. Will take a little longer, and nothing really happened here. I forgot the self-contained, but no big deal. But then we do the critical thing. I go to the figures, and here in the attributes, I add a hash. And the hash, here is the rule. The hash should be fig and then some name. Let's say second. It can be a number, it can be a name, it should be some ID, some Kimlik that will make sure that I understand what is, that I will can identify uniquely every figure. Fig, Equinocta, first, or whatever, the graph or low, whatever. Something that will help you to find it later. Let's do it again. Let's add the self-contained option here to make it nicer. And adding this hash activates the magic step that the figures are automatically numerated. Figure 1 is here, figure 2 is here. I can do the same with the table. You remember the table has a caption, so I have to put a space here. There should be a space there, curly braces, and there are not many options that we can give to a table, but I can put something like TBL. And here I think when I told Jembre and my other student that we have to put a table, I think I said it wrong. The keyword is TBL. That is the convention to. You will see in a minute why it's important that I have fig and TBL. So this is table 1, whatever. Can be number, can be text. The important thing that it should be unique. Okay, we process and we will, as you see, as you imagine, we will get here oh, what happened here? It's taking longer. Okay. Table 1, they got automatically number. Why this is useful? Because you can then use cross-reference, for example. See, for example, figure, and here I will make a reference to it. I will say add fig, and you see it's automatically suggesting here fig first. And fig and table, no, TBL tab. Okay. Let's try this one. So there is an alternative to Pandoc XNOS, CrossNOS. This X means cross, for cross reference, cross numbers. But I kind of, this is more flexible, but slower. The alternative is faster, but not so flexible. So you see, for example, figure 1, okay, these are got a link to connect to here. But I forgot to write table here. So there is a figure 1 and table 1. So let me go to the trick here. I will make a summary in a minute, okay? I forgot to write table. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add an option here that essentially you do one day and you copy forever. You don't need to think about that. When you make your next paper, you will already have it. Cross-nose clever references. So if I enable the clever references, they become clever and they put the name automatically. So let's see what happened here. The fig, I got fig twice and table 1. So if they are clever, if the citations are clever, they will automatically say figure and table. No, that is a matter of style. I personally like that this reference should be in uppercase. There are more options, but I'm showing you the essential one. Capitalize. So this is how I'm doing this. Say figure 1 and table 1. Okay. Okay, you say, well, what is the trick? I can do it manually, but what will happen? What if you have lived enough, you will know that one day you will realize that this table that was second table, in fact, should have been before. You realize that, oh, I did it in the wrong order. This should be early. You change the order of your chapters, and that is fine. So I just move it with the reference, and then the number will change automatically. So this is figure 2. This is figure 1, figure 2, and the reference is pointing to figure 2. Adapted automatically, and table 1. Okay. And if I have more tables, so if you have many tables, many figures. So the trick is to add fig for the figures and table for the tables. And you put a label there, an ID, and you have to think about Twitter hashtag. Hashtag, I don't know, molecular biology, hashtag tool for writing. I should have make a Twitter account for this, no? Tool for writing. So you put the hashtag to remember it. And then the citation is the same idea of citation of papers. And that's why citation have to be, the figure have to be solved before the bibliographical reference. That is why the order is important. So the at is a reference, can be a reference to a figure, can be a reference to a table, can be a bibliographical reference. Okay. And in Twitter, you also have at someone. So we have the tables and cross-reference. Number section. You can add another option. In fact, it's just easy. Number sections. Unfortunately, it cannot be in the metadata. You have to write it in the command line. I put the option number sections. And what happened here? And then the section got automatically a number here. That section can be your chapter, for example, or section, subsection. There is option like number section, but not subsection. There are all this kind of option eventually. But and reference doesn't get, I don't know why, but there is something like reference don't get a number. That chapter doesn't get a number. Well, when you put this section numbers, you can also have a hash for the section. Let me do the trick here. I can put a name to the section. Say, for example, hash sec example. I think example. Put a label there, and we can say something figurant in section example. Okay, I can do that. So now the sections are also numbered, so you can reference things crossed. Moreover, what was the option? We are adding this option, cross-reference number by section. So the figures and table will include the name of the figure of the chapter. If you are writing a text in a paper, probably this is not useful, but in a bigger document like a thesis, it may be useful that the reference are by chapter. So what we got here, we got section 1, figure 1.1, and this is figure 1.2, and the table 1.1, figure 1.2, the table 1.1 in section 1. All done for you. The computer work for you, don't work for the computer. Of course, there is some effort on handling the labels, but with the proper plugin, the computer also helps you do that, and it's an investment. It's an investment. You spend more time preparing the first time, but later you can use it more. Okay, what else we have? Easy. We are finishing now. At the end of the day, when you are happy with your document, you, instead of making HTML, you do docx. Take a little longer, and in this case, I can open directly the doc, or you double click the file, whatever. And Word, eventually, after a lot of thinking and consideration, will open the document. You see, thinking. Okay, got it. Tool for writing science, blah, 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 blah. And we got the Word document with the references in the style and the numbers, and everything. And even you can click here and go to the figure. Everything done for you. And you may say, okay, but this is not the style that the university asked me. Well, one option is that you change it here. You go here, I don't know, you put it here in the style pane, and you go to the, I don't know, section, whatever. Let's say here, I click here. What is this? A heading 1, and I have an option here, modify the style, and I can change it to look. But it's not the way that I'm going to recommend you to do it. I'm going to close it because it's good to close it when I'm going to recompile. You don't need to say self-contained, by the way. Doc can only be self-contained. But the last point is this. You can include a reference document, like a template. So if I have a document with the proper format, I can tell Word to use that template with that style. So you have one Word document, can be small, can be essentially empty, but with the proper styles. And then when you compile with Pandoc, it will give you. Okay, here there is a problem. I'm getting an error here, and I will tell you in a minute why. It say, it is broken and you have to fix it. Let me go here, close. But let me show you how it finishes, and I'm going to fix it in a minute. Okay, so this is the title and the section that I took from a template that someone gave me. Okay, and the references. But you see, I run the same command in the reference file, and the looks are different. So the final comment is, I will not save this one. The final comment is this. This is a comment that we run only once. We will run pandoc, not to process our data, just to print the default data reference doc in a file that I'm calling custom reference. That custom what I did wrong here. Wait, not like this. I don't know. I was working like this. Okay, so This custom reference is an empty document, but with one element of everything that we care. One title, one subtitle, one author, one date. And we go to the style pane. You need to do this only once. So you say, for example, okay, the title, how I'm going to write the title. You go here and you modify the style. Or there is an option like you modify the style here and then you say, copy the style here. The style for the abstract, for the heading, for the paragraph, for the body text, for the hyperlink, footnotes, and etc. All these things you can define here. And after you adapt, let's make just a simple test here. Let's say that I title, I'm going to modify the style. And I'm going to change it to green. Why not? And I am going to change, instead of Calibri, I'm going to change to, I don't know, Time New Roman. And I'm going to make it 20. No, something more clear. 28. Scandalous. Okay. Subtitle is based on title, so it adapts automatically, but you can change it later. So I save this one. Then I go back to my command line. And I run this thing. Is this time my reference document is going to be the custom reference. Okay, and then we open the other one, example doc. As you see, and now you see the title is in the style that I choose. So it works. And I didn't get any error. So you export a custom reference, a reference file once, you adapt that following the rules of the university. In fact, we can do it once for every university. You do it once, you share with your friends. Everybody uses the same style. And it's like you do once for every university. Okay, well, that was the core, but I think I have to go one mention. I will skip this one comment. I will also skip this one in the point of collaboration. The point, if you are an advanced text file, if you go the text file way, you can go with GitHub or GitLab. That is a way that people do more and more. If you're really in doing the thing in the computer way, let's say. The most important thing, you don't send it on the email. That is the worst idea. What we do is, and I'm doing this with my student, is that we use Google Docs. And we only use italics for scientific name. We use the structure, we use sections of section and so. And I write the citations and reference using Pandoc style. If you are advanced, you do the reference doc, the reference bib, the bib text file manually or with any of these tools. Or in the worst case, we use Google Sheet to keep the entries. And I export, so in Google Docs, you can export as a Word file, or even you can, there is a way that you make automatically that your Google Doc is automatically a Word file. And then I use Pandoc in the other direction. So essentially what I do, I say Pandoc. Let's say I took this example docx, and I say, well, I have other option, but essentially what I say, output new dot markdown, because Pandoc converts every format. And if you see here the new, where is this? Here, new markdown. I get the sections and I get the figures, the width change, and there is an option that you should have included to export the figures. The Word file includes the figures, and you can export. I don't have the option at hand, but essentially you can take the Word file and take the text, and at the same time take the pictures and put them in a folder. Now, at the long term, what I want to do is to handle the figures independently, because essentially when you put the pictures in Word, they lose quality. So I prefer kind of having the high quality and put it in Word at the last minute. Well, that is the core of what I wanted to show you. As you see, I skip a couple of things. Maybe the only thing I have to show here is that the footnotes are really at the end, the footnote that we defined before. In Google Documents, you can also put footnotes and they are exported. In Google Doc and Word, you can handle references, but it's not the same way. And I kind of think that the BibTeX way is much more flexible and much more powerful. And essentially less work. The bottom line is this. If you can do without the mouse, it will be faster in the long term. Everything that you can do with the keyboard will be faster than with the mouse. The mouse is easy, but not correct. And the keyboard is the real superpower. Okay? Well, thank you for your attention. I will eventually put the slides in the web, and you put the video and so. And as usual, if you have any question, ask. I hope that you get curious and you want more. If you want to know more, if it triggers your curiosity, send me an email and we will see what we can do. Okay? Any question?
I have a question, actually.
Cool.
We talked about only the article references, but you said that if you are using a web page, you have to talk about the day you send it. Is the CCL format automatically attached the date you?
Yeah. I mean, depend on the CSL. But in general, yes. I cannot promise you that always, because I have not seen all the CSL, but I know that in general they work. It's part of the style. So to be honest, I never get deep in the CSL, but I know that when I put reference to online resources, they put accessed on date.
So we have to do it manually if it's not attached automatically.
No, well, the trick of CSL is that it's an open thing that you can edit. So if for some reason you are using a style that is not including all the fields that you want to include, you can change it. But just to be clear, there is two files, or three. One is the main document, but there is the BibTeX file when you define the document, and the CSL essentially defines how to convert the BibTeX file into the final document. Okay, that is the point. Okay. How to convert it to. So it's a style, really a style. So the important thing is that when you record, and if you use the correct tool, it will be automatic. But when you record a web page, try to include the date. I think now it will get crazy if you forget to say that, but the correct way, the official way to do is to do it full. Can I ask you to turn your camera and we take a picture? Just I stop recording.